We literally see this every single year. Players come out of nowhere and win people fantasy football leagues. It's not all about having Christian McCaffrey on your roster, even though it's probably really nice if you do, but it's about being aggressive on the waiver wire, understanding what players you need to stash before they break out so you're not spending all your fab at the end of the year to get a guy on your roster. It's about outsmarting your league mates, being better than your competition, and stashing the right players. That's why in this video, we are talking about 10 plus players that you need to be stashing now on your roster before week 8 of fantasy football. And this list features a young tight end who I think is going to break out the second half of the year that no one is really talking about, along with the rookie running back who is going to see a larger role on one of the best offenses in football. If you watch one video this week, it needs to be this one. Let's start with Christian Watson, who looks set to return soon, coming off that torn ACL. And when healthy, I think Watson is one of the more exciting players in the NFL. This is an ultra-talented player with a very unique skill set. He's 6'4", he's a big-bodied receiver, but he can run a 4.3 40, and he already flashed big-time potential his rookie year. If you remember with Aaron Rodgers, he had 8 touchdowns in 4 games. He's the perfect type of player that we talk about all the time that you should be stashing on your bench now because of the talent, because of the offense that he's on. And Watson is a guy who honestly could be a league winner once the fantasy playoffs roll around. He gets the luxury of being on a really good Green Bay offense, attached to an ascending superstar quarterback in Jordan Love. Yes, it's a crowded wide receiver room in Green Bay, but Watson is a guy who is going to always be on the field because a lot of the other receivers can't replicate what Watson can. They can't do what Watson can, which means he's going to get on the field. He's going to see a lot of playing time. And I really do think he's going to play a massive role on this offense once he finally returns. He's that big play threat, but he's also a guy who you hit him on a slant and he can take it 70 yards as well. They're going to use him all over the football field. I would be getting Watson on your roster now before he plays in potentially week 8 or week 9, before he has a big blow up performance, and then you have to pay up for him, right? So get him on your roster, stash him away. All right, moving on to our next guy, Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end for the Bears, who, let's be honest, he's done next to nothing so far this season, but I'm expecting that to change sooner rather than later. The Chicago Bears did not spend the 10th overall pick on a tight end for him not to be involved. They already kind of made a mistake by passing up on Tyler Warren, if we're being honest. They should have taken Warren, but they decided to take Loveland instead. And while it did look like a very questionable move at the time, let's see what happens because Loveland hasn't really had a shot. He hasn't had a fair shot. He hasn't seen a lot of volume on this offense. And another reason for optimism for the rookie is Cole Kmet, who's been starting over him, should not be, is banged up right now. He's dealing with the back injury. So that's going to open the door for the rookie. And then I'm assuming Colston is never going to give the starting job back after he gets on the field in a full-time role. We saw his highest snap share and targets in week 7. You like to see that. And Colston is another player who's a physical freak. He's pretty much a big receiver at this point, 6'6", 240. He has very natural hands, strong route runner, maybe a little Travis Kelce in him. He could be a security blanket over the middle of the field for Caleb Williams. He's only 21 years old. This is another situation where you're betting on a really talented player, a young player, on a pretty good Bears offense. They've been struggling throwing the football as of late, but this is a very talented rookie who, if he can get full grasp of this Bears offense under Ben Johnson, it could be wheels up. I would be adding him now before he has that nice game, probably this week. I'm assuming Kmet's not going to play. And yeah, the Bears get the Baltimore Ravens, where if Lamar plays, they're going to have to throw the football a ton in order to keep up with that offense, and the Baltimore defense is horrible. And oh yeah, Ben Johnson, remember when he was in Detroit, he turned Sam Laporta into one of the best looking tight ends his rookie year. Don't think that he can't do that as well with Loveland. Again, he handpicked him over Warren. He must have saw something in Colston that we haven't seen yet. So if you need a tight end or if you need some future trade bait, get him on your bench right now. All right, moving on to our next guy, Devin Neal. This is more of a sneaky one. This is a really sneaky one, actually, as a lot of people in your league probably have no idea who Devin Neal is, but he's the rookie running back for the Saints who's going to have an opportunity on this offense now with Kendre Miller out for the year, unfortunately, with that torn ACL. Neal was a dog in college, which most NFL players were, right? But he was ultra productive at Kansas. 2023, he had over 1,400 total yards, 17 touchdowns. 2024, over 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns again. And while he did fall to round 6 of the NFL draft, you don't love that, but this running back class was extremely deep. I don't think that means that Neal isn't a good player, because I think he absolutely is. And this is a bigger running back sitting at 5'11", 215, and possesses a 3-down skill set. He's versatile, he's reliable, he's a very well-rounded player. He's really good in pass protection, which is going to get him on the field. And he can get it done not only on the ground, but through the air as well. And this is a situation with the Saints, who are 1-6. Are they just going to continue to roll out 30-year-old Alvin Kamara, who just hasn't been that great this year? Like, if they're smart, I know Kamara doesn't want to get traded, but the Saints need to trade him away, and then Neal would be the RB1 on this offense, which Saints offense isn't anything special, but anytime you can get the running back one on any offense, you take it. So I'm not saying you add Neal because I think Kamara is going to get traded. I just think that the Saints are going to utilize him regardless. Did you see the role that Kendre Miller had in this offense before he was done for the year? Neal is going to take the Kendre Miller role, which was substantial. And with Alvin Kamara just not playing good football, maybe he starts to fizzle out, or maybe they want to see what they have in the younger player. That's what you're betting on here. So if you need a running back who could emerge in this backfield, maybe Alvin does get traded away to the Chiefs or something, who really knows, then you want to get him on your roster now, because I do think he has some upside. He could be one of those guys at the end of the year that you're like, yeah, I had Devin Neal on my roster and I won my fantasy league, because that is fantasy football. The weirdest players will help you win it all. And even if you have a good record right now, that's why you need to still be aggressive. Get these guys at the bottom of your bench, because fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen, as you probably know after this crazy season so far, it's very unpredictable. So don't ever let up. Don't ever relax. Keep on pushing. If you like what we're doing here, consider leaving a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate you guys. All right, moving on to our next guy, Trey Benson. I understand Benson's probably rostered in just over 50% of Yahoo leagues, but Arizona's on a bye. He hasn't played in a long time. Just go check. Maybe someone in your league dropped Benson because they can't roster him anymore. You don't have an IR spot, or they had to throw one of the bazillion players injured on their roster into the IR spot. I would go look, because Benson was the Cardinals' clear-cut RB1 before he got hurt, and was stuffing the stat sheet in week 4 against the Seahawks before going down. He had 8 carries for 35 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 5 receptions for 19 yards on 5 targets, 10.4 fantasy points. Not great, but he got banged up in that game. He probably would have had a touchdown had he not gotten injured. And Bam Knight, Michael Carter, Amari DiMercato, what have those guys done to give Arizona confidence that they deserve some sort of role once Benson returns? They haven't. They've looked inefficient. They're dropping the ball before the end zone. Like, this will be Benson's backfield once he returns. And he did look pretty good pre-injury. He was seeing the lion's share of the work once James Conner went down, and he was averaging 5.3 yards per touch. He should pick back up right where he left off once he's good to go, and he could be back in the next couple of weeks. We don't really know. He's dealing with that knee injury. It could be week 10. It could be week 11, but this is another great player to stash who's going to be an RB1 on his offense. I think he'll be a top 20 running back in fantasy the rest of the way once he returns. So I get it. He is rostered in over 50% of leagues, but this is more of a just go check, because he could be really good for your fantasy football team down the stretch. All right, moving on to our next guy, Kayshon Boutte. This is another guy who you don't get excited stashing Boutte at the bottom of your bench. It's not like, oh, this guy's a star, but he really might be for fantasy, you guys. I'm telling you, I know we hate the term league winner. We already have thrown it around a little bit, but he has being a league winner in his range of outcomes. He really does. He's not a flashy player, but he's playing really good right now. He's been balling as of late. Week 6, 5 receptions, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns, 26.3 fantasy points. And in week 7, 2 receptions, 55 yards, another touchdown, 13.5 fantasy points, 75% route participation, which is tied for the team lead, and has the highest catch percentage above expectation of any receiver in the NFL this year. He's the clear-cut number 2 target on this Patriots passing attack behind Stephon Diggs, attached to Drake May, who, talk about balling. Drake May is looking like an MVP this year, which this matters, right? If he was in a bad offense, I would not be recommending him right now. It's the fact that he's playing really well. He's in a good offense with a really good quarterback. And if you remember in college before Kayshawn got hurt, he was trending to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He fell because of the injury, but he's only in year 3. He's 23 years old. He is absolutely a player who could emerge the second half of the year as he gets better, as New England starts to give him the ball more, because they don't have a lot in the passing game outside of Diggs. Give him more than 2 targets. Give him more than 5 targets and see what happens. If that happens, if New England starts to give him more work, he could absolutely be very fantasy relevant down the stretch. Again, this is a player you want to add on your bench now. It's a speculative stash, because if New England is like, oh yeah, this is a really good player on our team, he has a knack for the end zone, he looks really good. If they're like, yeah, let's use him more, then he could absolutely go off. All right, moving on to our next guy, Isaiah Davis. We've been talking about Isaiah Davis on this channel for weeks now. So hopefully he's already on your team, but let's keep it simple. I think Davis is a very nice player. He's looked really good in his limited role for the Jets. He's been efficient. Like, he is a quality running back. He's a young running back. In week 7, 2 carries, 10 yards, 2 receptions, 22 yards, 4 targets, 5.2 fantasy points. Obviously, the numbers don't jump off the screen, but he's looking good in what the Jets are giving him. And he did see a season high 48% of the snap share. He only played 3 fewer snaps than Breece Hall. That could be because Hall got a little banged up in this one. And Davis is the only other back on this roster that the Jets trust giving the football to outside of Breece Hall. This is a good all-around player that would eat in this offense if, I don't know, Breece Hall got traded away. Like, why would the Jets not trade away Breece? They're 0-7, another lost season. They have nothing to play for. They don't seem to like Breece Hall. Breece Hall clearly doesn't want to be on this team anymore because they've been so bad every single year that he's been a member of the Jets. The relationship is going to be gone after this season. I don't know what his trade value is with other NFL teams, but you could get something for him now before he just leaves in free agency next offseason. Like, what are we doing here? You're 0-7. What does it matter? Just let Davis be the workhorse back, roll out Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, Garrett Wilson, and just maybe you win a couple games, maybe you don't. Breece Hall's not going to make that much of a difference. Like, the business decision of the NFL, of the Jets team, should be to trade away Hall. Maybe it doesn't happen, but if it were to happen, which just let it happen, Davis would be the workhorse back on a run-heavy Jets team. I don't think he's a Breece Hall caliber talent, but I think he's an above-average player in the NFL that would get it done on the ground and through the air. He could be very serviceable for fantasy. He's a guy you want on your roster. Again, this is a situation where if you can get the starting running back for free right now, why would you not, right? So obviously this is a big bet on Breece Hall getting traded, but there's not much risk. You probably don't even have to spend any of your fab to get him right now. Pick him up for free. And another wait and see situation where if the Hall does get traded, I really like Davis as a top 24 running back the rest of the way because he's not going to leave the football field. Braylon Allen is not going to come back this year. He did have surgery on his knee with that MCL injury. Why would Braylon Allen, their future RB1, why would they rush him back, right? So this would be Davis's backfield if Hall gets traded. All right, moving on to our next guy, Brashard Smith. This is an interesting one, all right? He's coming off his best game as a pro in week 7, 14 carries, 39 yards, 2.8 yards per carry. Not efficient on the ground, but that's not what Smith does. He's a receiving back. He's a former receiver, and he racked up 5 receptions, 42 yards, 13.1 fantasy points. You like the work in the receiving game, and obviously he got all of that work because the Chiefs pulled their starters at the end of the third quarter because they were just crushing the Las Vegas Raiders. So a lot of this production came in garbage time when Pacheco and all the starters were not on the field. So that in itself is like, okay, so if they're in close games, then he's probably not going to play. But I would say not so fast to that. I think that what we saw last week in week 7 was nothing either. I think he's going to have a role on this offense as a receiving back, make Isaiah Pacheco the early down grinder, and just continue to phase out Kareem Hunt, who I believe he's banged up. He's not good anymore. He doesn't deserve snaps on this red-hot Chiefs offense. And Andy Reid also just said in an interview that Smith's role is pretty much going to continue to grow every week. They're going to continue to use him all over the football field. We don't know how big of a role he's going to get, but it sounds like he's still learning the offense to me. We know the Chiefs with young players, they kind of move them along slowly. And while it has looked right now that Pacheco's kind of taken over that role again, I would not be shocked if Smith continues to kind of eat away at that, especially in the receiving game. And if Brashard Smith can be the next Jerick McKinnon, then you want him on your roster. So it might not happen quick for Brashard. And yeah, last week, a lot of his production came in garbage time, but this is also a really talented running back, a young running back, a rookie who, as he slowly grows into this offense, could be fantasy relevant as the season goes on. You want to bet, it's like a lot of these players that we talked about, you want to bet on a talented player on a really good offense whose role is growing. Like, why would you not? So I would be stashing Smith because you really don't know what's going to happen. And if he becomes their full-time receiving back, he's on the field all the time in pass down situations, you would be very happy with that because his touchdown upside, his receiving upside, his reception upside would be really nice. He could have flex value down the stretch. He could be a guy that helps carry you, helps lead you to a fantasy football championship. All right, let's talk about some other strong stashes. We'll kind of whip through these. Tez Johnson for the Bucs, because I don't think Mike Evans is ever going to return this year. Chris Godwin might not either. So Tez Johnson, you could even talk about Jalen McMillan. Those are going to be guys on this offense that are going to be the supporting cast to Emeka Egbuka. So I'd want Johnson on my roster, who has already flashed. This year, Kyle Monangai, the rookie for the Bears, running back, continues to emerge. He should already be on your roster, but if he's not, he's a good player that could take over Swift potentially as the year goes on. And no, I'm not going to give up yet on Tajay Spears, Bayshul Tootin. These are two running backs I still really like. If they get more work, watch out. You could also add both Las Vegas wide receivers, Jack Besh, Trey Tucker, because Jacoby Myers could get traded before the deadline. And another player to add in case a trade happens would be Malik Washington for the Dolphins. If Jalen Waddle does get traded away, then Washington would have a role on that offense. Brian Robinson Jr., if Christian McCaffrey eventually wears down and gets hurt, hopefully he doesn't, but you want Robinson on your bench just in case. Luther Burden for the Bears. We've been talking about Luther Burden. I don't know if it's going to happen, but another young, talented player who could have a role the second half of the year. And then finally, Jaden Blue. If anything were to ever happen to Javonte, Blue would see a lot of work. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys so much. Thank you for all the support. Let's go get a W this weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.